Hello, I'm going to talk to you about mapping today. Why do we map? Well, we map the units so that we can check that our assessments are covering all what they should cover from training.gov on the unit. At Southwest TAFE we have put together a template to help you with the mapping. This template can be found on the intranet and it can be found through the Teaching Quality Centre on the intranet, and if you go in there you'll go into the Learning and Support area, and that's where you can find all our current templates. This is the current unit mapping matrix. The front page, it gives you some instructions and help on how to map once you've populated the template. To populate the template, it's a matter of opening your unit in training.gov, and once you've got it open, you're finding all the information you need and cutting and pasting it across. For example, the unit code, it's quite easy just to cut and paste it across to the template there. You'll need to reformat it when you cut it and paste it across, but make that one the last things you do. The release number here, the release number of the unit, the release number can be found on training.gov straight after the unit name, and in fact in this case the release number is 1, so I don't even have to cut and paste it, I can just type 1. The description, and depending on the unit it can be called different things. In this case it's called the application for the unit. It could be called description. Once again, you're just copying it, pasting it in. Now once again you will reformat that when you're finished, so you'll go back up, highlight what you've cut and pasted, go to your page layout and take off the spacing formatting. Oops. And then you'll go back and make it black so it's actually readable instead of grey, and make it 11 point Arial, which is the Southwest TAFE's font is Arial. 11 point makes it more readable because it actually pastes in at 9 point. The link, so you come back up and you just copy what that link is up there, put it in there and paste it in. Easy as that. Once again, these assessment conditions is the next section that you paste in, and they'll be found at the bottom. For those who have got older units, it's not the assessment conditions, it'll be critical aspects of assessment, as you'll see that there by the heading, critical aspects. So in that case you would delete that heading and have your critical aspects heading up there. In this case, for this unit it's assessment conditions, so I'm going to delete that bit for the critical aspects. And each one of these points needs to be a different row in here. So it's got 2 points around what the assessor must have, and so I will put in the assessor must as 1, and each one of these will be their own rows like that. I will reformat to make all that black 11 point in Arial as I go. So that's how you populate the template. With the knowledge and performance evidence, when you fill them out, they're easy to populate, as you can actually highlight all the dot points at once, as long as you count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the knowledge, and you select the 6 rows, 6, and then you can paste them in quite easily. The performance criteria, it's not quite that easy. Training.gov don't want to make it all too easy for you. So you scroll up and you'll have to do the elements as a separate cut and paste. That one didn't even like that, so you've got to be careful you don't select too much, which I just did. Just a little selection, put it in, and then each performance criteria unfortunately has to be selected separately. So that's how that is done, like that. And I often quite come back and just type in the numbers, easier. Okay, so that's how you would fill that in. the other part that you need to fill in is your foundation skills. So your foundation skills, now this will depend on whether they're implicit or explicit. So they have to be in and you have to map to them. Sometimes you're lucky enough that, like this one, the foundation skills are explicit. So that means when they're explicit, they're actually part of the performance criteria. But I still need to put that statement in so that whoever comes along and reads it knows that themselves. They don't have to go hunting for it. And I actually put that top statement in up there as well, in that little spot. And you see how it's got that white behind it? That can get a bit annoying. So you can actually just copy that, do a format painter. In fact, I've done that wrong. Let's redo that. I'll copy that description, do a format painter, go over the top, and it fixes the white up. I can then just take the bold and italic off. And that's how you fix that piece up. So the foundation skills are in there now. The rows I don't want, I can select and delete to neaten it all up and make it so much cleaner. I then will take out the headings that I don't want as well. And that's populating the document. Now, once I've got the document populated, here's one that I prepared earlier, and it's engineering unit, use hand tools. As you can see, I've put all the information in here. I put the assessment conditions in. I haven't deleted that heading, so I better do that as I go through, and all the mapping's been done. Now you'll see with this unit, this is it's got some of the old styles in the unit, in that it's got range of conditions in this unit. So the range of conditions, they generally apply to something that's up in the performance criteria. Now for some units, what's up in the performance criteria is bold, so you can clearly see where the range of conditions sit. But in this unit, they have unbolded it, so made it a little bit harder that you have to read it. But in this range of conditions, the first one, it talks about, it's not the first one, sorry, drawings which include one or more of the following. So where it mentions drawings in my mapping, what I've done is I've copied this instruction into the row that the performance criteria is. So it's right where I need it to be. So all the information about this one performance criteria is all in the one spot. I'm not scrolling down to try and find where the range of conditions are. It's all in the one spot. And you'll notice here, so that 2.1, select hand tools appropriate to the task requirement. So what are the hand tools? Well, they actually tell you what the hand tools are. They've got a list of them here from training.gov. So I have actually copied that and pasted that in that row. So straight away when I'm mapping to this, I've got the list of hand tools. So I know whether I'm correct or not with the when I'm looking at my questions or my observation, that they're using all the hand tools that they say in training.gov. So how do I work out what assessments I use? Here in this unit there are 2 assessments. So what I do is, once I've populated the whole document, we've got in our template instructions on how to do this, but we do a thing called show me, make me, tell me. Now this was put forward by Annie Uringa in a workshop, and basically I use this item on the menu here, the text highlight colour, to highlight, and I use a colour for each one of those, a colour for show me, a colour for make me, and a colour for tell me. They'll help me understand what sort of assessments I need. So followed standing operating procedures. So I look for the doing words, like the verb, so follow. Anything that's needs to be observed, I'll put in yellow. And that's, I always start with observation first, not knowledge, because a lot of the knowledge can be demonstrated while you're observing someone do something. So it might cut down the number of questions or quizzes that you need. So always start with the observation. And here, so I'll go through and say, okay, that's a follow, so that's something I need to see. Comply with work health safety requirements at all times. So that will be a little bit of knowledge about what the work health requirements and safety requirements are. So I might actually make that a little bit blue for knowledge, but they also have to comply with them. So that is a little bit of a yellow. Use appropriate personal protective equipment. So they have to use it, not just know about it. So once again, but they have to know what the appropriate PPE is in. So there's a bit of knowledge there as well. Now they can demonstrate that knowledge. They don't need a question around it in this case. They can demonstrate that knowledge by the use of it. So you don't necessarily need a question. Identify job requirements from specification, drawings, job sheets or work instructions, and it tells me there what the type of drawings that they have to identify the job requirements from. Now that could be knowledge based or it could be part of their observation. Either one for that. So you don't necessarily have to see them identify. They could be answering a question around that. Use hand tools to produce outcomes that meet job descriptions. Once again, the end product could be, so this could be part of a project where they're creating a product, so they're making something, and that would demonstrate the use of these jobs, the use of the hand tools, or it could be an observation as well. So they're not quite so hard and fast. Identify unsafe or faulty tools and mark for repair according to designated procedures during and after use. So you'd probably want to observe them doing that, but then they've also got to do something. So they've got to create a document or fill in a document. So they're marking for repair there. So if they've got to fill in a document, you might make that one pink, but they've actually got to also see them do that. Undertake routine maintenance of tools using engineering principles, tools and equipment. So once again, that's a doing. Store hand tools safely in appropriate location according to procedures, so you'd need to see them do that. We don't need to worry about the foundation skills, although I'll get rid of the heading as we go. Once again, get rid of the heading that's not needed. Follow work instructions. So you keep going on all the way through until you're finished doing this show me, tell me, make me, and then you go and see how much colour you've got. How much colour have I got? You go back and look at your colour and say, okay, is this really something that they can demonstrate while doing the observation, or do I need a separate assessment task? In this case, I'd say it's something that they could do while doing the observation, so I'm actually going to take the blue off, and same with this one. And so that's all observation. So once again, this is actually something that could be done just with an observation. So if we go all the way down, you'll see that there are some that have got lots of questions around it, and that's where they probably overlap with the knowledge that is needed. So quite often you get questions for the knowledge, and they'll also be mappable against the performance criteria. Okay, so that's when you're mapping. The last thing that I'd like to say about mapping is when you're mapping, don't just tick the box. You're actually got to map to your marking guide, and your marking guide should have numbers about either in this case it's the questions, because they're knowledge questions, so you're mapping to the question number. In this case, it's they've got two observations, session 1 and session 2, and they've got rows in their marking guide, and so they're mapping to the rows in the marking guide. So you need to map to that detail. If you need any help, just ring someone from Teaching Quality Centre and they can help you.